Luxembourg is small but fascinating, beautiful but expensive, with around half of the population of this country being made up of foreigners and around 1/3 Portuguese alone. Let's dive deeper into what makes Luxembourg such a great expat destination. I'm Josh.
I'm Kalie, and this is Expats Everywhere, the channel that gives you information and experiences from foreigners living all around the world. Let's focus on this tiny country and specifically into its capital, Luxembourg City, by breaking down moving to, living in, and working here.
Luxembourg is quite unique in the sense that it's currently the only independent duchy or territory of a duke that still currently exists in the world today. The country was founded in 963 and is often described as a fairy tale country.
The reason for this is because of its history of kings and castles along with victories and wars. The country is landlocked and is about the size of Rhode Island in the United States. There is a lot to consider when moving to Luxembourg though.
It's part of the European Union and was actually part of the 6 founding countries. Luxembourgish, French, and German are the official languages, but English is widely spoken here because of tourism, schooling, and there are a lot of expats.
The country is a mix of mountains, valleys, and forests, but of course Luxembourg City will give you the best city feel in the country. Weather varies, and although it's quite temperate, you will get rain all year round and snow in the winter. Summers are quite comfortable. The country is diverse with its weather and landscape, as the north will have more forests and lakes than when you move further south you'll hit the different valleys for good wine, such as the Moselle Valley, which is a popular place for tastings.
Now, the big city in Luxembourg is Luxembourg City, but big is all relative. The population is a little over 100,000, but it still has a lot of impressive aspects, especially for expats who want to move to a city that has European history and architecture, but isn't overwhelmingly big.
You can enjoy the old fortress, narrow streets, historic buildings, and old bridges. The whole city has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1994. While all of these things are beautiful and exciting to experience for the first time, when you live here, you will want to dive into the culture and get to know what the locals do on a daily basis. What is one of the things they enjoy? Grabbing drinks at a local tavern or pub, of course.
Yeah, and earlier we mentioned languages, and while people do speak English, we always recommend that an expat tries to learn the local language. Since there are 3, you can choose one and focus on that, but most likely German and French will be the easiest of the 3 and more useful for the other neighboring countries. However, if you really want to impress the locals, then try to learn some Luxembourgish.
Like we said before, this is quite an expensive country to live in, and the cost of living can be high. When renting an apartment, it's not uncommon to sign at least a 1-year contract and to put down a deposit normally equivalent to 2 months worth of rent. Utilities and liability insurance are things that the renter normally pays, so be sure to check your contract, which will be most likely in Luxembourgish, French, or German.
A 1-bedroom apartment in the city center will be around 1,600 to 1,900 euros, and outside of the city center closer to 1,300 to 1,600 euros. A 3-bedroom in the city center will be around 3,000 to 3,500 euros, and outside of the city center it drops to around 2,500 to 2,800 euros. Remember, there's a lot that dictates price, from size to location to amenities and more. So we just wanted to give you this range so you can know.
Renting unfurnished is more common, but you can find furnished apartments. Just expect to pay more for those. Budget for utilities to be at least 200 euros a month. There are no restrictions for foreigners to buy properties in Luxembourg, and the process is pretty standard, but the prices can be high. You can get a mortgage, but expect to put down around 20 to 25%.
Yeah, and that's pretty normal. Speaking of banks, there are over 100 around this small city. This is good for jobs, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If you want to open a bank account, the requirements will differ from bank to bank, but expect to produce things like a valid ID, residency, and employment contract. Not all banks require an employment contract, and you can open a non-resident account as well with an overseas address.
One really cool thing about Luxembourg is you don't have to budget for public transportation because it's free in the whole country. Obviously something like a taxi will cost, but trains, buses, and such are free. You just jump on and go. The city is also very bike friendly with bike lanes and bike lights.
A meal for 2 at an inexpensive restaurant will cost you around 18 euros, and expect to pay close to 75 euros for 2 at a mid-scale restaurant for 3 courses. Beer is around 5 euros and a coffee is around 3 euros. Groceries can also add up, so it's not uncommon for people to jump in their cars and drive across one of the many borders to a neighboring country who has lower prices.
The healthcare is always a big question when living in a new place. Luxembourg has a compulsory public health system that you pay into. It's quite expensive, but it's efficient and comprehensive. Everyone paying into this as residents has public health care. You can also choose to top it up with private health care, which many also do. Although it is expensive, it's quite generous with what is covered. One thing to note is that you normally pay your treatment costs and then submit for reimbursement, so keep that in mind.
For those of you with kids, there are a few international schools here in Luxembourg, but expect to pay around 15,000 euros per year per kid. Private schools will cost less, and then of course you have public education. Just keep language in mind.
A popular job opportunity in Luxembourg City is teaching English. It's a very multicultural workforce, so it is possible to find a job in another field. Knowing French or German will better equip you. Jobs in telecommunications, finance, steel, technology, and more are great places to look for work.
EU nationals are prioritized, but if your employer can prove they made an effort to find a local worker, but your advanced skills were needed, he or she will need to fill out a form from the National Employment Administration. Then you will need to apply to the Immigration Directorate for a temporary leave to stay in Luxembourg before you leave your home nation.
If you obtain a job with a company, they should assist you with your documents and your work permit. Be sure to ask them to also help with things like taxes and Social Security. If you do choose to stay in Luxembourg long term, there is a path to citizenship. It's not the easiest though, and you'll have to hit certain requirements like living in the country for at least 5 years and passing an oral test in Luxembourgish.
If you just want to visit, then check your passport requirements, but those from the EU, UK, US, Australia, and a few others don't need a prior visa. They can stay up to 90 days. If you're not from one of these countries and are unsure, check the requirements before booking your flight.
A big perk to expats working in Luxembourg is a tax exemption for the first 5 years. With low unemployment and inflation, this stable economy is a great place to work and live. But would Josh, Valencia, Pincho, and I live here?
So, I think Luxembourg's awesome. I feel like there are a lot of similarities to another place that we lived, which is Singapore. You know, both being small countries, both having amazing infrastructure. Yeah, I want to hear your opinion first.
Well, I think it's actually a very beautiful city, and it's really easy to get around, probably because it is so small. I think the architecture is really nice. The people seemed friendly. It can get a little cold. That's where it would make it different than Singapore.
Yep.
The public transportation thing is so cool.
It's
like
cool.
That is an awesome perk that's kind of new that they're doing. So I do like it. I do understand that it's expensive though, so I think that might be your hold up.
You got it. That's my hold up. I think if you remove money from the equation and you're just talking about like a cool place to live, Luxembourg's awesome. I mean, it's right in the heart of, you know, several borders where you can get to some cool places. I don't really know how great the international airport is there, but yeah, in terms of like train travel and car travel, it'd be super easy.
You just want to have a good job.
Yeah, you want to have a good job. I don't think we could move there with our current job situation, working full-time with Expats Everywhere. We're not earning that much. So
would you expat that?
Right now, no, but I would like to in the future. I would like to expat that.
And I would say yes, I would expat that. But I'm not as concerned about money as you are.
Just gotta make it work.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
All right, if you guys want to check out more videos about living abroad, then check out this playlist right here where we break down different countries just like this, and maybe you'll find the country that you're interested in. Now, let's get moving.
Bye.
Bye.